Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We will now begin our session. On behalf of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants, I would like to warmly welcome you to the Teaching for Impact MIE Sustainability Train the Trainers 2025 Series 2. My name is Ayuni Ashiran from the Competency Framework and Development Department at MIE, and I will be your host for today. First and foremost, thank you for all taking the time to join us. We truly appreciate your presence and participation. As a quick recap, in Series 1, we explored an overview of sustainability issues, particularly focusing on sustainability risk, budgeting, and the impact of financial statement. For today's session, our distinguished speaker will be sharing in-depth insight on another important area, which is data collection and reporting. Let's look forward to an engaging and insightful session ahead. Now, moving to our main session, we are pleased to have with us once again our speaker, Dr. Nurmazilah Dato Mahzan. We are truly delighted to welcome her back to continue sharing her expertise and experience in advancing sustainability education and awareness. Today, Dr. Nurmazilah will guide us through data collection and reporting, a crucial aspect that supports transparency, accountability, and informed decision-making in sustainability practices. So, without further delay, let's warmly welcome Dr. Nurmazilah to begin today's session. Dr. Nurmazilah, we are now invite you to share your insights.
Good morning to everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and you are ready to have the discussions this morning. Well, I'm very humble to be given this opportunity to share a bit of knowledge and experience in this area of sustainability. In the first series or the first session that we had, we went through quite a number of areas such as materiality, risks and opportunities, and also we went through the regulatory environment and landscape. We spoke about the local regulatory progress. We also spoke about, the United Nations effort and different agencies under United Nations, such as UNFCCC, such as UNEP. And as we speak, there will be a conference of parties, those who actually signed the Paris Agreement. There'll be COP30, Conference of Parties, version 30, in Brazil, end of this month or probably third week of November. And there are a lot of activities that has started, and interesting that there are already pocket conversations with regards to COP30. Okay, so I think some of those are actually will be available, and some discussions may already be available online. So this is an opportunity for us to get the knowledge and the updates on the Conference of Parties discussion. Okay. Well, today we're going to look at data collection and reporting. There are two parts of our discussions today. One part we will discuss on data collection, and then we'll have a break. Okay, I have about 30 over slides on data collection, one activity. I hope I'm going to be able to cover that, until the next break time that we have. And after break, we're going through reporting. It is important to remember that data collection is not just for reporting. Data collection and data itself are being used for decision making. And of course, at the end of the day, those data are being used for reporting, used for communication, not just reporting to be specific, but communication as a whole. And most importantly, the data is to be used for our internal decision making in companies, for board discussions, for senior management discussions, as well as different level of the management. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, looking at how data is being used and how data is really an important factor in any decision making. And not just about ESG decision making. In some companies, ESG has been integral, as we discussed the first session. ESG has been integral within how the company operates. Yeah, is actually part of strategy, part of risk assessment, and part of the opportunities that companies are taking. So therefore, we have to understand. And today, I'm going to share some of those ways data are being used in decision making internally or externally. Okay, next slide. And first of all, let us look at the interest of various parties surrounding or stakeholders surrounding the SDG and ESG information. Investors, at one of the important stakeholder use data for various reasons. Yeah, so investors use data for their investment decision. They use data for their expansion, and within the investors community, they have analysts, they have asset managers. There are various type of investors. There are equity investors. There are also asset managers, and they use data for various reasons. And investors is actually the category that use data in a robust manner, yeah, because they use really quantitative analysis, and investors actually use ESG data to adjust the premium or discount on any share valuation. So one of those, some of those investors that we are familiar of, like MSCI, Standard and Poor, and Morgan Stanley, for example, they actually really collate and run through all the data, and they use the data in really a structural manner where they analyze and look at and input that into share valuation. And then we have financials. Financials also use data because they first, of course, is regulatory nature. The banking regulators talk a lot about greening the financial system. So the acronym or abbreviation used is NGFS, the greening the financial system effort, whereby the underlying reason is to ensure or to try to promote financials not to be involved in financing those activities that harm the people at large. Yeah, so within the taxonomy, such as the Bank Negara Malaysia taxonomy, as well as Securities Commission taxonomy, they talk about DNSH, do no significant harm. So the DNSH principle is very important, whereby most financiers as well as investors try to make sure that they do not give out loan, or they do not involve or invest in activities that cause harm, significant harm. So DNSH has been a core objective for financiers as well as investors. Yeah, do no significant harm. And the NSH principle and objective has been embedded in various taxonomy around the world, such as the ASEAN taxonomy, the Securities Commission taxonomy, as well as the CCPT of Bank Negara Malaysia. And why this is important to us, and why this is important within the conversations between all of academics with the students or within your research, because investors and financiers are two main sources of funds for a lot of companies. Yeah, in whatever initiative they are undertaking, then they need to be supported by investors as financials. So that's why I think the conversations are important. And then, of course, regulators. Regulators normally will let a free market. However, when it comes to the interest of the public, regulators will come forward to to give their policy document or to issue their guidelines, so that the market, the capital market and the money market harmonize, and that will make it easier for decision making of investors, financials, and other players in the market. Then, of course, vendors. Yeah, vendors, especially those who are supplying or supporting regulated industries like like public listed companies or financial institutions and the Bank Negara, they need to be aware that they are part of the data that public listed entities will need to collect. So we talk about GHG emissions, scope 3 under the GHG protocol, then those information need to be embedded, yeah, and they need to also share and report to their clients. And then we have internal stakeholders. They are all those within the organization that will have to make decisions, various decisions at various level. And this is where internal stakeholders, when they may not just be limited to the sustainability department. I think sustainability department is actually more or less the champion within the organization, but everyone in the organization need to be involved with data collection and also probably data arrangement, data collection, and data analysis. Okay. Now, of course, public, especially NGOs and public at large, do use information from companies reporting. So I think understanding the different areas and different usage of data from various stakeholders is very important, because the way reports need to be prepared may have to be different from if we are addressing a particular stakeholder. Say for public listed entities, if they have to make their presentations to potential investors, like big asset managers like Nodgers, then they really need to be ready with information, because I think those will be part of the conversation that they will have with the all these investors. Right. Let's move to the next slide. So I am trying to capture, that the data on environment, social, and governance aspect. There are various data. And again, we need to apply materiality that we have discussed in the first session. Yeah. And again, we also need to focus on what type of stakeholders that we are addressing, because some data would be more probably important for certain type of stakeholders, especially the regulators. Say if you're facing the Jabatan Alam Sekitar, our environmental quality department, then of course your data on environment would be very important for you to bring to you with that in that discussion. Okay, and again, if you are having a meeting, if they are have company need to have a discussion with us, yeah, with our International Labour Organization, then of course all the data relating to the social part relating to labor need to be well at hand for a good discussion. So I think this is where all these data, they are connected. Data on E can be connected to S, and of course G is actually relates to all the how companies or how the governance within the whole organization drive the environment and social matters into the long-term value creation of the company. So all in all the ESG data would be very relevant to help leadership, to help senior management and the board in looking at the long-term value creation. So you can imagine that the data are interconnected. You can imagine that the data would be weaved together to help companies to strike the right strategy for the way forward. Okay. And the next slide. So data also would be very important, because companies are surrounded by risk, and not only risk, companies are also surrounded by opportunities for them to grab with regards to the new economy, the green economy, and so on and so forth. And risk would be something that they normally focus on, because risk would affect their businesses, would affect the well-being of the people, and risk would also probably affect the future. So this is where whatever data that they have, yeah, for example, data from meteorology department, data on weather forecast, would really you know, will really guide with regards to their business plan or with regards to their operational plan. So that's why businesses need to look at data, and data would help them to make the right decision. For example, the Meteorology Department of Malaysia already announced that the monsoon is starting soon, and who knows where the typhoon are affecting now? Who knows what is happening? Please share with me in the chat which countries, our neighbors that are now already have affected by catastrophe or environmental catastrophe. Okay, who have read something about environmental catastrophe around our neighbor? Yes, Philippines, they are struck by typhoon. Yeah, and Vietnam had a really a big flood, I think, the past 1 week. And while the typhoon is actually affecting Philippines, there was also, I think, the caution that it may come to probably nearer to Sabah or Labuan or those areas. So this is where I think not just countries but companies need to be ready of the climate catastrophe that will affect them, and they will need to plan. So if it's transportation, they will need to plan, the transportation schedule and all that. Yeah. So how bad is typhoon? That's probably another question. Yeah, typhoon, but how bad is typhoon? What potentially will be affected? Would people lose their houses? Would there be, a strong or a very huge damage to the buildings? Would people be safe? So I think there's a lot of considerations that need to be taken, and there has to be a lot of plan with regards to the rescue part and how to rebuild after that. So again, with regards to climate catastrophe, we discussed and we've seen the video in the first session that those who are affected, mostly those with challenging social situation. So imagine the social situation is already very challenging, and when they're affected by environmental catastrophe, then it will be double challenging for them. And for them to rebuild their life would be very difficult. So you see, social and environment are really connected, and this is where we look at what are the causes. What are the causes of climate change? What are the causes of global warming? And that's where the tracking and the tailing back to the GHG emission. Okay, and this is from science. Okay, so therefore, again, I discussed in the last session that uh, the countries that are probably high emitters of carbon or GHG would probably not all will be affected, but those who probably are within the countries with low emission, they sometimes will be affected as well. So it doesn't mean that countries with highest emission will be highest affected. So this is something which is a natural force that that's why the Paris Agreement, the United Nations effort to reduce GHG emission would be, the responsibility of all, because we don't know who will be affected. Yeah. So it is about our responsibility and accountability with regards to ESG. So, and this is where I think when there are queries and questions like why do we need to do this? Because we are low emitting countries. But I think unless you really can prove that you are not part of the whole problem, but I think we are all we are all together in this challenge that we are facing. Okay. So next. But on the other hand, companies also realize that ESG data help them to unlock opportunities and stay ahead of the curve. Yeah, for example, on the GHG emission, we're talking about scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, and they also find opportunities for transition to carbon neutral or transition to net zero, and they also find opportunities where they can move into low carbon intensity production or operation. One good example, if you look at the Toyota data playbook that I have shared with you on the Google Drive, you can have a look at how the Toyota has embarked into various initiative to move into low carbon production or low carbon operation. So of course, it is actually a journey. Whatever companies are doing, they started to have that transition. That's why we talk about transition plan, because it will take some time before we all before companies can achieve their net zero target, or they can achieve a carbon neutral operation. So that's why if you look at how the ISSB report or how TCFD has been structured, one of the main component is about metric, because metric to be to be set year on year and to be monitored on the progress year on year, that help companies to monitor and to navigate their transition plan. Okay, so on the social part is also the opportunities about how we can get enough fund, how we can operate while we are looking at ensuring the social aspects are well taken care of. Yeah, so this is also looking at fair and just transition, looking at more opportunities, looking at upskilling, looking at health and benefit and social well-being, and of course, the most important driver would be the governance and leadership. Yeah, governance leadership who understand how environmental and social factors should be embedded into their strategy and the operation, and how their businesses are impacted, yeah, by environmental and social factors. I think looking back at COVID is about social well-being. COVID is about people that has been affected, yeah, and that then they became unhealthy. But you see that what happened to people during the COVID time affect a lot of businesses. Yeah, it affect companies, they are not able to operate. It affect travel. Uh, People are not able to travel, so business travel are curtailed, and even personal travel are curtailed. Tourism has been affected. So people is part and parcel of how and why business flourish or business fail, on the other hand. Okay, so we can see the impact is really huge. Yeah, so this is where social well-being is very important, and the impact is interconnected. The environment impact social, the social impact business, and vice versa. Okay, so we need to look at the opportunities of how the data help us to be more prepared, how the data help us to come out with probably new business initiative, and the data help us to find what are the pain points and how do we solve the pain points based on the data that we have. Okay, so I think this is where, for example, we talk about utilizing solar. Okay, this renewable energy has always been my passion, so I can easily share, the examples of renewable energy. So we know that we all moving in, a lot of organizations move into solar, but what about schools that need to move into solar? What about mosques or churches that need to move into solar? Because otherwise their energy bill would be really high than before. So I've seen like certain surau or mosque, they experience lack of fund because of the energy bill has really increased. So the other option is to embark into solar, but they need capital, they need fund for solar installation on the rooftop. And this is where sometimes there are companies that would provide wakaf, perhaps, and there are also organizations or individuals that pull their fund together to install solar at all these public utilities. Yeah. So then we talk about schools. Yeah. So some schools probably have the budget to do so, but not all. And how about schools at rural areas? So some of them may not even have access to electricity, and this is where solar would be a good option for those who are probably far from electricity connectivity. So these are areas and initiatives that can be explored by companies and even social enterprise with regards to how we can move, yeah, and help the societies as well as also take care of the environment. One thing good about renewable energy evolution or progress, because for example, if the school is very remote in the past, the technology was probably not there yet with regards to self-consumption of solar. But now more and more technology related to renewable energy have emerged and have evolved. And for example, uh, when we talk about hydro, there are now mini hydro that you can use just for certain locality. So the emergence of new technology based on research and design help more deployment of renewable energy. Okay, so I think there are many opportunities that are around there. I've seen a lot of opportunities around transitions, around recycling, around waste and all that to mitigate all these pain points that we have. Even when we talk about waste, I think our government is put finding a lot of ways how to uh, solve the problem of too much waste, yeah, at the landfill. And I think we have landfill. So one of the initiative is to turn the waste into energy. Okay. And so and also at the source, government is very much trying to educate people to do separation at source so that all those waste can be channeled to the disposal center based on the type of waste. But this is a great effort to educate the society in terms of separation of waste at the source. Okay, and I from my observation, a lot more education need to happen, and this is where I think the role of educators can really make a lot of difference. Okay, but maybe the question is, why would we accounting educators talk about waste management? Okay, why do you think at this forum or this session with all the accounting educators, we are discussing about waste management? So why do you think that's important? Any idea from the chat? Because it's also related to the cost. Yeah, it related to cost of handling waste, especially if your sector is like construction, your sector is F&B, the cost of managing waste is huge. Okay. Say for example, food waste. So I've spoke to a few, organizations. They have a huge food waste, and they're looking for, food disposal, and they're looking of turning those waste into compost, but they really need to have a very huge machinery to do that. Yeah. So then opportunities for companies that provide those machineries to F&B outlet. All right. Okay. Yeah. She has a comment there, which I like the comment. Waste management involve cost, yes, and also potentially bring huge saving due to the reduction of disposal costs. You're right. You're right, because I think now cost is really increasing, but you have your, your own machine to turn it into compost, and the compost can be sold, can be used again. So I think this is where that will be very useful. Okay. Next. Yeah. Okay. In addition to that, to what happened within the daily operations and what happened among the societies, and with regards to capital and financial market, regulators come forward to bring this regulation to actually in more like leading the market with regards to adopting good ESG practices. Yeah? See, for the public listed entities, we've seen, the uh, progress within the Bursa Malaysia listing requirement, the main market and the ACE market. So in September 2022, the Bursa Malaysia listing requirement has been amended and improved. And then further, the NSRF, National Sustainability Reporting Framework, was issued by Securities Commission, whereby the Securities Commission actually provide the roadmap for adoption of ISSB standards. And then Bank Negara actually earlier came out with climate change and principle-based taxonomy. I think that was in 2021. And then later on, Bank Negara came out with CRMSA, Climate Risk Management and Scenario Analysis, that was issued in 2022. And I think all financial institutions need to be ready by now. And Bank Negara do, provide and do review the readiness of banks, yeah, regarding CCPT and CRMSRE. Yeah. So, and the idea or the thought behind this is to ensure that our capital market and our financial market are resilient and are ready for to withstand the risk coming from sustainability, which are related to the ESG factors. Okay, right. So if you look at these regulations, it actually constitute a big percentage of our capital of our market, a big percentage of the companies. So public listed, I think no doubt there are probably about thousand plus. But when it comes to the scope 3, then it will the need for data will flow to all vendors that support, or all vendors that have business with the public listed entities. Okay, so scope 3 relate to the third party where you have business with and in regards to their emission. So therefore, the data need to be collated from all your vendors of each of listed entity. So it means that the data on ESG need to be collated, yeah, but need to be prepared by all those that are involved within the capital market. So this will affect all the SMEs, many of the SMEs. And similarly, with regards to banks, all vendors of the banks would need to share the data with the bank relating to their carbon emission, relating to their GHG emission, and relating to their waste. So obviously, it includes many SMEs out there. So this is to probably answer the questions which I always receive, that we are just SMEs. We are not public listed entities. We are not governed by Bursa Malaysia listing requirement. Do we need to track of our data? So to me, first, tracking data on ESG would be good for the SMEs themselves at the scale that they are. Yeah, if they are probably just say if they are just goreng pisang seller, but wherever data on their waste management would also affect, in terms of whether they are being fined by the local authorities with regards to how they dispose their waste. Okay, so I think this is where probably they already know how where they're going to dispose all their goreng pisang waste and all that. But again, data is data. Data is needed for business. So whether the data is related to financial or non-financial, so those are good for the business to make decision and to find the precision with regards to the operation. So another thing is about precision. And this is something interesting. In the past, people may not look at data in probably in a greater detail. They know about it, but on hindsight, they don't have the data at hand, and there's not much interest in terms of data collection. Probably the past 20-30 years, but now because of competition requires granularity of data analysis for you to find those niche, for you to find those area where you can refine. Okay, so this is my observation. In the past, the data has been there but not collected, and companies may not feel they need to use those data. But now, with increased regulation, with increased competition, precision and granularity of data analysis would help your business to perform better. Okay, this is where I think the emergence or the opportunity coming from technology would really help companies to gain that competitive edge. Yeah, using AI. It's fine using AI, but how are you going to build the AI model for your company to collect those data? Yeah, say in financial institution, AI will help with regards if there's an AI model that help in terms of how we look at climate, how we can predict climate and how climate would affect the type of mortgage that we undertake. That will probably be helpful. But is that AI model available yet? Okay, so there's a lot of opportunities because AI, we need to do the right modeling for it to be adopted in the business. Okay, right. Next, let's look at the data quality. Next slide, please. Any questions so far? So data quality is important. Sometimes there are available data out there. Say, if I'm in plantation and I need data on the rainfall, there could be providers, but again, to ensure that the data really accurate so that I can do a good model predictions. And but there are also companies that provide good data, but that can be very expensive to get the data. So there are data providers that bring meteorological data or weather prediction data that they actually collated through satellite, but that can be very expensive. So that day I was having a conversation from one climate specialist, and I asked about the meteorological data, and he said that now one of the highest paying, I think, highest paying services would be to get the weather forecast data. So I think that probably has some truth in that, because weather forecast data would be really useful for a lot of sectors, say transportation, airline, plantation. But to get an accurate weather forecast would not be easy nowadays, because you can see that the weather pattern has been erratic. Yeah. So how many of you are having rains at the moment on your rooftop? Okay, sometimes the rain prediction can also be confusing. Okay, we thought it's going to rain, but it's not raining. Now, how many of you having rains on your rooftop now? Okay, it looks like the weather seems very, very wet today. No, you don't have it. Okay, thank you, Chong. At least someone is listening. Okay, I just want to ensure there's oh yeah, Chin, so fun. You having rain on your rooftop now. It's raining at your side. Where are you now? Prof Azliza is Puchong. It's also raining. Prof Azliza, hope you are well covered with your comforter. Oh, not comforter, with your with your sweater. Sunny but windy. Oh, that sounds like Sabah, right? Thamson, sunny but windy. Sounds like you are by the beach. Okay. All right. And so I think this is where weather actually in Malaysia towards the end of the year would be the time or the season where we are very cautious about weather predictions. Okay. Because this is where the monsoon is coming. And companies, especially financial institutions, would really rely also, and they really need the climate data because that helps them to perform their climate risk analysis. Okay, and also the source of data. So sometimes the ESG data model use probably the source that is similar, that will probably bring more accuracy. For example, if banks in Malaysia need to come out with their climate risk analysis, I would imagine having a common data source will help, because then uh, obviously we are all in same geographical area. Then it does make sense to have a common and consistent data source. Next slide. And I also spoke about, next slide, please. I also spoke about investors. Investors do use data for their rating purpose, yeah, to ensure that the rating can be properly done. And they actually use data also from provider, and they use platforms such as Clarity AI, and they actually provide adjustments on on their EBITDA, for example, based on the quality of the environmental scoring, quality of their social scoring, and that helps them to look at the rating of the organizations, the company, and that also help them in terms of providing suggestions to the client. Yeah, so analysts, rating agencies do use a lot of data, different types of data, with regards to how the rating is being done. Perhaps I can share, say, one example. So this is the how Sustainalytics, did their rating, their methodology. They look at all the three areas. Then they have research on these three areas. Yeah, the um, corporate governance, the material ESG issues, the idiosyncratic issues. Then they look at you know definition of maturity and risk. Okay, and they identify the each factor. Okay, and then they look at further data in terms of relating to ESG, and they do beta indicators and beta signals. Okay, then they look at all this data on product, financials, event, geographical. Then they have the qualitative factors of ESG. Then they have the correction factor. Okay, and then they look at all the management indicators with regard to how they manage risk. Then they calculate the ESG risk rating on the managed risk, manageable risk, and the exposures, the risks that are not being managed. Okay, and then they have all these data on the indicators. Okay, then they embark on the modeling itself. Okay, so the research process is actually where they get all the data. Those are the methodology that is being used by Sustainalytics. So you know very well, Sustainalytics is also the data provider. So this is actually to demonstrate that investment community do use quantitative data, and that's the reason why we are moving towards our Bursa Malaysia also moving towards having companies to issue or to come up with their quantitative data. So this helps investors as well. So for companies that have participated with the FTSE for Good, okay, in Malaysia we have one index that where that cater for listing of companies that comply to ESG. That is what we call FTSE for Good. In short, we call it FTSE for Good. So there are now about more than 100 companies, or probably almost 150 companies, which are already accepted into this index. And of course, the companies do have data that are being reviewed by Bursa Malaysia and FTSE before those companies can be accepted in FTSE for Good. So if you Google Bursa Malaysia FTSE number 4 GOOD, then you'll find the list of companies and the methodology used for them to be admitted to FTSE for Good, and how they have performed, and they have rating as well with regards to whether they're rating 4 or they're rating 3. Yeah, so that helps us in terms of understanding how data is being used and how data is very important with regards to investors' decision. Okay, and next. So rating is actually very important as well, because it helps investor decision making. It helps also companies to find areas of improvement, and it's also a communication tool, yeah, for investment communities, also for regulators with regards their decision making. And then that helps shareholders, that can also have potential employees, then that can also help in terms of general public with regards to supporting or not supporting companies. Yeah, so I think this is where the sustainability reports help in terms of data provision to the rating agencies, and rating metrics helps decision making. So all in all, I think the the sustainability reporting in various forms have already exist, because in the past many years, probably more than 10 years, rating agencies have started to ascribe rating to various companies around the world. So companies already have the data, especially those companies that chose to be rated. And now I think the ISSB is part of bringing more consistency across reporting in various spaces. Okay, next. And one important thing that we have discussed a lot in the session number 1 is about connectivity between financial and ESG data, which is really very important. So I also shared with you the report by UNPRI about the report titled Flying Blind, where they've a lot of cases whereby those data may exist in the sustainability report or integrated report. Say the ambition to go net zero, the ambition for a company to move into low carbon operation. But then when analysts look at the financial statement, they don't see such transition or such data being there. Yeah. For example, if the company would like to move, or company has pledged net zero, means that they need to look at all the assets that are carbon intensive, and then the potential of replacing those assets with with the plant that are less carbon intensive. Say, for example, if they really use a lot of electricity and they are moving into solar, so some of those refitting need to be done. Okay, and what happened to those assets? What happens to the depreciation? What happens to the potential stranded assets? So would there be you know change to your significant accounting policies? Would there be change to your impairment? Would there be change to your useful life of your tangible asset? So those are questions surrounding the analysts, and then they came out with the report on flying blind, where they felt that the financial statement has not captured that very well. Okay, so it's very important there's connectivity between financial and ESG data. And this is where, if you look at ISSB, the S1 and S2, a lot of emphasis on connectivity. So that has been much being discussed and much being said about the importance of connectivity between financial and ESG data. And I think IFRAC, the European Financial, Association, also talk about the research on connectivity. So they have commissioned and they have produced and published the report regarding their research on connectivity between financials and ESG data. So this is, I think, is really interesting, because obviously whatever that has been planned and by the company to go net zero or to go carbon neutral, that would probably involve some modification or some transition plan. And obviously that needs fund, that needs capital. And obviously that also impact whatever assets that they have in existence, in the financial statements. So this is where would I think a lot need to be done by financial and accounting community with regards to understanding, your how your assets are being impacted, and how your assets and liabilities, so to speak, are being impacted by the transition plan. So, for example, disclosure, another examples that I can share. So if we are disclosing about our electricity usage, kilowatt per hour, kilowatt hour. But obviously, those electricity that has been consumed, okay, I also have to pronounce correctly, those electricity that has been consumed would already appear in your utility bills and would already be paid for and recorded in your utility expenses. Okay, so if I were to check, I would look at your utility expenses and see whether it is reasonable, consistent with the disclosure on your consumption in the in sustainability report. So in sustainability report, the disclosure is in kilowatt hour, but of course in your financial report, disclosure would be in ringgit, in currency, in monetary measurement. Okay, so it's just that maybe utility expenses would not appear as one line in the comprehensive income statement of comprehensive income, but probably if you want to share it, that can also be shared as additional notes, if that is something material or significant enough for us to share. Depends on consumption, on based on each individual company. Some companies may not find it significant or material because the consumption would probably cost would not be as high as other types of costs. Okay. So convergence and then the adoption, okay, on the notes and the adoption of financial statement, and it's also about assurance. So if you look at certain financial statements, they have two types of report. One is the audit report on financial statements, and whether the auditor also mentioned in their report that they also have look at the ESG of the company while they are looking at the financial statement, fair valuation of financial statement. That's one. The other one you probably can see in the sustainability report, assurance on the sustainability report part. Yeah. So you can see probably now, different report at the different assurance report or auditors report at sustainability report, as well as the financial statement. And what if the company prepare an integrated report was where sustainability information and all financial statements are all in one? Okay, so would we probably see two types of report appear on the same booklet? Okay, so that's I think it's also interesting for us to look at. So the fourth part is on innovation. So this is again on the system. I have been in communication. For example, I spoke to one big, ERP provider, and I asked them, since you already have ERP, why don't you have an extension of that ERP to enable collation of sustainability data, so that companies they don't have to buy a separate system for collection of sustainability data? Because to me, I prefer that the ERP collate that in one system, because you can see that we can probably build connectivity between the sustainability data, ESG data, and the financial statement, financial report, and the financial information. Okay, so the connectivity would probably be more facilitated if the ERP can be extended to have the ESG module. So that is probably innovation that we would like to see in the future. And the next one, okay, next slide. So the reporting landscape, actually the many areas of reporting, or many ways data are being collected. So if we talk about sustainability reporting being attached and being produced together with your financial statements, with your annual report, but there would be other types of report to be given to, say, rating agencies like S&P or FTSE for Good, ISS, MSCI, or Sustainalytics, or LSEG. Refinitiv, I think, is now LSEG. So reports are probably not just about annual regulated report, but reports would probably be given based on the need of various stakeholders. Okay, so for example, we have CDP, Carbon Disclosure Project. Carbon Disclosure Project help investors in terms of looking at how companies address, various factors like water, like forests, for example. So we have to be aware that a report is not just about annual reporting on sustainability, that probably guided by Bursa Malaysia and any other regulators, so Bank Negara, for example. But reports can also be given for other, stakeholders such as rating agencies or certain type of investors. Okay. All right, so let's look into activities. So it's been 1 hour for me talking. Next, let's have this activity. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. Here, what I would like everyone to do is to be involved and to join us in this activity. I've given the CIMB Sustainability Report on the Google Drive, and please download that report. And please identify how data helps the bank make sustainability-driven decision. Okay, so just type, as you read through the sustainability report, and just type your, your findings, or just type your idea on the chat box. Yeah, how do you think the bank, and have you seen the bank use data to make their sustainability driven decision? Okay. From the Sabarina says CIMB has optimized the use of its floor space, thus reduced its footprint carbon. It also focused on reducing the gap between female and male pay ratio, plus engaging talented and diverse individual. So this is part of the diversity, equity, DEI policy. So Suriati says that CIMB use quantitative data on carbon emission electricity consumption and business travel to monitor its environmental footprint. So this information is very useful for the bank to further move to move into the transition and improve regarding their target and metric. Okay, because it helps them to reduce GHG emission. So they Chong says that supporting SDG ADF, okay, finance low income individual. Use, as Lynn says, use quantitative methods to measure the consumption of energy emission and electricity. Okay. How about their in terms of their what? How about in terms of their JJ accounting? Okay, you can see in on page. I think that's page 91. They do talk about how they measure or how they type their JJ accounting. Okay, what else do you see in terms of the data that they use? Okay. Next slide. Maybe I move to the next slide. Okay. This is I think this is page I think this page 90 something. This is how GSG CIMB is showing in terms of the data for financing purpose, how they institutionalizing their climate scenario analysis and climate risk assessment. And this is the governance within the bank with regards to their scenario analysis and climate risk assessment. This is in relation to Bank Negara policy guideline on climate risk assessment. So they have an oversight committee. The oversight committee is the board group risk and compliance committee and board risk and compliance committee at the group level and the bank level. The process owner, they identify the process owner, which is climate risk department, is within risk department, and then model owner is regional advanced risk modeling. And then key stakeholders involve group risk, group finance. Yeah, finance is part and parcel of that. Group sustainability and business units. So shows that everyone is part of that. Okay. And then the steps taking first is the scoping of the climate scenario analysis, and then data gathering and preparation. So everyone need to be involved, and that's why having data from all departments or business units are very important. And then they went into model development, and then the model need to be validation. Okay, then they look at how that is going to affect the implementation analysis. Then they derive the outcome, and socialization. The outcome means sharing the outcome with various parties involved and refining the outcome, and then to finally obtain approval and submission. Okay. So this is the mapping. Yeah, this is Azlin. You asked about is it that they map with risk assessment? This is the mapping. The process is a process on climate risk, climate scenario assessment, and climate risk assessment. And then the navigating of the fields, of the evolving fields. They look at the adjusting the scenario choices, expanding the scope, and then extending the risk and time horizons, increasing representative companies, validating the archetypes and leveraging IFRS engine, and developing a climate risk model for property-backed portfolios. So they have done, climate risk assessment for property-backed portfolios like mortgage. Okay, there was a question by Lu Chong. they also met the relevant UN SDG. So the question, how can this be audited? If you read through, say for CIMB, the assurance, okay, the word that we use is actually assurance. The assurance that CIMB has done is on limited assurance. Limited assurance where the few metrics that are being reviewed, and then where the assurance provider provide the assurance. So limited assurance does not involve, the whole of the report. It involves a few metrics, only few metrics, yeah. So it is not a reasonable assurance. So if you look at assurance, there's a new new guidance or standard by IAASB, and MIE has adopted that. Is ISSA 5000. I think it's worth looking at that, but we are not really covering that, in our session. Okay, so but that probably we can, MIE team can invite those from the assurance AASB to probably share on the assurance part. It is more from papyrus part. Okay. Any more finding? Any more questions that when you go through the analysis, do you have any more observations or or questions that you want to share? Please feel free to share it on the chat. Um, Next slides. I think there's also this page where Stanby shared in their sustainability report about their approach to JJ accounting. So scope 1 is direct emission from source we control. I think this is a good learning page. Yeah, good page also for students to learn. Direct emission from source that can control on-site fuel combustion, fuel use in company vehicles and mobile generators, fugitive emission. Scope 2, indirect emission from purchased electricity, are reported using two methods, location-based and market-based. So with regards to electricity, I think there are a few initiatives from CIMB where they do, I think they do purchase carbon credit to offset on the electricity consumption. You see, sectors like financial, they use building and they use a lot of electricity through in the building. Okay, they, unlike other sectors like transportation, they're not operating, where they use a lot of vehicles and all that, and their main uh, emission area comprised of the usage of electricity in the building that they utilize, yeah, for their operation. So some of the buildings are not owned by them, so installing solar panel would not be easy, yeah, for those buildings, yeah, you're renting, because the building owner may install, may not install. But alternatively, to offset the carbon would be through purchase of carbon credit, yeah, or subscribing to green electricity tariff. So that's those areas for companies or organization that rent their building. Okay. And then they also have scope 3 emission from, back to CIMB page, back to the slide, emission from activities linked to asset not directly controlled by CIMB. This is the scope 3, yeah, from all their vendors, and they have listed out category 1, purchase good and service, category 6, business travel, upstream lease asset, category 8, category 13, this downstream lease asset, based on JG protocol, and waste generation, employee commuting, category 7, category 9, downstream transportation and distribution, and category 15, investment. So they aim to collect data from all these sources. Okay. So I think this is also something that can be learned. Yeah, that's also good for students to know that financial institutions like CIMB do collate data with regards to this. Okay. Next slide. With regards to climate risk assessment, This is the source from Oliver Wyman. Oliver Wyman is a consulting firm. So data plays a very important role. I want to share how important is data. So for a good climate risk assessment to be done, say on financial institution, so you can use climate data sources, and it also depends on availability based on your geographical area. So in EU, the data might be more available as compared to certain part of the world. So external data sources like S&P Truecost, S&P Capital, Global Energy Monitor, there's a list over there. And then IEA, for example, CRREM, CREM is actually part of climate risk organization. I think it's under United Nations. And then NGFS, the greening of financial institution. So climate data source can be regional in nature or can be local context. So for local context, probably one of the provider would be our meteorological department. Okay, and then all those data need to be, collated together in your climate data bank, and then you can develop your climate models such as climate scenario model, net zero model, or any additional model for a climate dashboard. Yeah, so and this helps financial institutions making decisions and monitoring their climate exposure. Okay, so this is, if you look at this, it shows how important data is needed, and data, the robustness of the data would also help in terms of proper analysis and decision making. Okay, so having said that, if you're having like master students or PhD students with good data analysis and with good research background, they can also be part of, say, investment research, ESG investment research, and also can be part of uh, risk research. Yeah, so because the skill set on data analysis is really important with regards to climate risk assessments. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Otherwise, let's move. So with regards to data collection process, next, the data that we're looking at would be environmental data. And again, I must say that it depends also on the materiality. Yeah. So if you look at environmental data, the most common would be energy consumption, GHG emission, water usage, waste management. But for some other sectors, there would probably be more, more data on chemical, for example, more specific sector specific data, say on their chemical, with regards to say plantation, maybe on fertilizer, the impact of fertilizer and chemical. So there could be more sector specific data, but generally energy consumption, GHG emission, water usage, waste management, probably more generic or general data where many sectors would have that anyway. Okay, then common social data relate to like labor conditions, whether they are paid fair wages, whether they have good housing, then community engagement, how the company engage with community and what they contribute to community, workforce diversity, human rights practices. Yeah, so those are common data. And then governance data like business ethic, regulatory compliance, anti-bribery and corruption, and board diversity. Okay, and it also includes tech or cybersecurity data, exposure to cybersecurity, and then how you're taking care of your client or customers or stakeholders data. Okay, so those are common, yeah, but there would be sector specific, and this is where If you look at SASB has 77 sector specific metrics, and they go more detail for each sector, such as aviation, construction, where you can find guidelines within SASB. SASB refers to Sustainability Accounting Standard Board that has merged with integrated reporting that has merged finally to ISSB. Okay. Right. And next, each each sector will have its own material sustainability issues. Okay, this is where uh, each company would identify their own materiality issues. This is, I think, very important because later on when we look at S1 and S2 of ISSP, S1 and S2 emphasize on materiality. Yeah, materiality in the sense that those information that can influence, that the how investors are making decision for that company. So then company in different sectors, you can see that they would have salient data point that really relate to their sector. Yeah, say if it's in property and construction, they have different impacts, such as if you look at property and construction, the column number 2, you can see that they have ecological impact that you may not see in other sector. Yeah. So, and then you probably look at also some uh plantation has a product quality and safety in their social. And then you can see air quality within utilities. Yeah, you can see one sector may have a different or an additional sustainability matters. Okay, so if you have any idea or you want to share what other sectors, tourism sectors, we don't have it here. I think tourism sectors is also unique. They may have food wastage that will be big for them. Hospitality sectors, uh, probably medical sectors would probably have a lot of chemical that would be dangerous chemical. The schedule waste under the environmental quality that would probably be more from processing, manufacturing. So each sector may have one that probably be more salient to them rather the general ones. Yeah. As we go along, maybe you can just type on the chat, sectors that may have really a salient, a special sustainability factor related to environmental or social that's really regarding their sector. You just think aloud and feel free to share. Okay, I need to move with my slides next. In terms of the protocols, define the data, schedule data collection, and then aggregate the data, cleanse it, and consolidate, and then data validations need to be done. Yeah, to identify if there's a duplicate, overlapping data. And next slides. Most of companies are still on manual data gathering. From my conversations, of course, there are progress. Companies have started to adopt, systems, and probably they may have extended their ERP. So, but those in manual data gathering, still, I think quite a number of public listed are still doing manual data gathering. Yeah, and they do use partial adoption of technology like MS Excel or Google Sheet, but there would be challenges of this collection because there can be error, there can be also data loss, and also I think there can be timing issues as well to collate and get the data on time. Okay, so the those who probably have started collecting using Excel, they may have this type of template that I've shown you. For example, I'm not sure whether I can open and share my file. I'm worried that my computer, my old laptop will shut down again because I think it's too heavy with so many files. So I'm not sure whether my laptop can fetch the files. Yeah. But this is a template that you can see. For example, this on carbon data collection, they have the collection by each sets you can see on the slide by the generator sets, whether it's diesel or natural, boilers, the fuel types is diesel, agricultural machine, petrol or diesel. So they collect for the types of machines they use with regards to the scope one. Yeah. If they use a lot of heavy machineries, whether those fuel types are petrol or diesel, that everything has to be collated. So it's I would say that it can be really massive. And imagine if the company has a lot of factories all around the country, they have 10, 20 factories, and getting the list of all the machineries, all the assets that are fueled by different types of diesel or natural gas or petrol, then it is, I think, a massive exercise to collate information with regards to their energy consumption. And after collating information with regards to each different type of fuel and the energy consumption, then they need to convert that to carbon equivalent. Okay, so that is how it's being done in practice in company. Yeah. So let me try to just open one Excel sheet. I hope I'm able to do so. And let me share that with you. Okay. Can it be seen? MIE team, can you see my Excel screen?
Yes, doctor. You can
All
see it.
right, that's great. Okay, I hope. All right, so if you can see from this Excel sheet, this is just Excel sheet. This is similar to what you have. It's about capturing energy consumption. So this is based on each type of assets that I have here. Generator, then either is from diesel or from natural gas. This is a template that the company stand out to all their facilities, worldwide or nationwide. Then the boilers, okay, diesel. So here you can see the fuel types and then consumption, the third column or the first column rather. And then in terms of the unit, liter, and then the emission factors. These emission factors is where we convert that to carbon equivalent measurement. Okay, and this emission factor depends on if in US they have under the environmental, the EPA, I think. And if in Malaysia, we normally use GAG protocol emission factor conversion. But there's some arguments about among the engineers as well in terms of what would be the best emission conversion, because I think that's also affected by the by the other factor, the type of chemical or the location and all that. Yeah. So this is an example how the emission factor are being used to convert into GHG equivalent. Yeah, GHG equivalent emission. Yeah, so normally by uh you know uh by metric tons. So here is an example of template So you look at this, imagine, a manufacturing outfit or manufacturing company with all this type of assets like boilers, agricultural machineries, heavy machineries, welding and oxygen cutting, stove, okay, large commercial refrigeration. Then that also may involve a lot of other chemical like this acetylene for welding, LPG, okay, shielding gas. Then they need to identify the consumption and then convert, use based on the respective emission factors, and then you get the equivalent GHG. Okay, so in this case, there were a lot of questions regarding audit. So if you were to perform that assurance, I like to call it assurance, then you also need to, uh, to challenge maybe whether there's a correct emission factor conversion, and then to also look at the computation. Okay, so from also what I've experienced, before the external assurance, internal assurance or internal audit do look at this as well, and do look at the accuracy of computation. Yeah, it's part of internal assurance. So if you look at Bursa Malaysia requirement, the internal assurance, if companies are not going out for external assurance, at least they have an internal assurance in looking at all the accuracy of the computation and the fair presentation of that. Okay, this is an example of the for scope 1. And you can also have for water, for example, in terms of where the water is coming, I mean, is being consumed. Is it through irrigation, through cleaning, fire hydrant, and all that? Okay, so just give you an idea, the collection is massive. So Azlin asked, the template needs to be prepared by whom? Is it both an operational unit and risk management? Okay, so I answered that one by one. Okay, the coordinating, normally the coordinating department would be the sustainability department. Okay, so again, the template will be developed, I think, based on consultation with the business units, because the business units know very well, which assets use what type of fuel. For example, if you're talking about energy consumption, then they need to have that discussions before they come out with the template. So everyone, that's why business units need to be involved, because they know better their assets and they know better, in terms of the touch points of the footprint. So if we're looking at, this is just template for fuel consumption. We also have template for water. We have template for waste. We have template for, probably other things like, biodiversity. We have template for agriculture, for example. So all business units need to be involved to develop that template, because we need to know the carbon footprint. Okay. So how they collect and the data, they, if it's manual, they share this template to all the business units that are involved, and then say, I probably the best would be for energy consumption, would probably be for the machinery department if it relates to machinery, and then for building, maybe building management department. They need to be involved, and they need to be part of those who collect the information. And if they have a system, then it can be done during a specific system. That's why, as I ideally, I think if they have an ERP end to end, and then they extend the ERP to also be able to collect this information needed. See, so if you look at the template, the measurement differs from one type of fuel to another type of fuel. So if we talk about, petrol is probably by liter, diesel by liter, But if you talk about gas, it could be a different measurement. But if you talk about waste, then it's by kilogram. So there are different metrics or measurement metrics. But think about that. In financial statement, those are all paid for. Those are costs, right? And the costs are, of course, in monetary measurement. So there's a connection. I like to bring your attention and highlight about connection. How about SEDG? Okay. What is, or are you referring to SDG or the Sustainable Development Goals data? Uh, Prof. Jamila, you asked about how about SEDG? I can't recall. I mean, I try to think what is SEDG, or are you referring to, oh, the Simplified ESG Disclosure Guide? The SEDG is actually meant for SMEs, right? Probably non-listed entity. It has been issued by Bursa Malaysia, but since it's SMEs, if they're not listed, then we may not have access to the data. However, uh, from knowledge that I have, you know, the template for scope 3, sometimes the template is given by the customer. Yeah, if the customer is PLC, then they share the template, and it may be consistent with the SEDG, but it depends on the customer. If they have their own data or information that they need, sometimes they also need that for their rating and all that. So it may not be exactly the same. But SMEs may already start collating their data, but it is not available publicly, but it may be useful for them for their own internal decision making, and may be useful for them to also share the data with their customer. Yeah, because they are vendors to scope 3. Yeah. Okay, I hope I answer your question. And also the other data, the part of data, when I have this type of training or conversation with public sector, the focus is on more of on SDG data, because Malaysia also subscribed to UN SDG. We are part of the signatory of UN SDG, and our SDG Center collate that data, and our DOSM, Department of Statistics, collate that data, and we do submit our data to United Nations. Okay, so that is another level and another conversation. We look with regards to SDG data, but you can find the SDG data for Malaysia online, and you can see the rating, country rating on SDG on United Nations webpage as well. Okay, so that's another I think another conversation. Okay, next, tech-enabled data. So we spoke about, are they using a specific system? I think ideally having a system would be very facilitating, would be very facilitative. But first of all, everything need to be how we want to set up the system, uh, goes back to what kind of data do you want. So this is again, most importantly, the proper identification of data and proper footprint that need to be done. And then identification of the type of assets, identification of the source of data, as well as the person responsible to provide that data, yeah, or the business unit responsible. Then if all those are properly identified, it's a matter of shifting the template from Excel to the system. Okay. But if your factory is automated end to end, yeah, is a technology-based factory, then I think it would be more easier to feed the data direct from the operating machine to the system, to the collect data collection system. So, and this is where the use of AI would be really useful. Yeah. So that day when I spoke during MIA conference 2024, we had that discussion of how companies use AI in terms of the data collection on ESG. So I do have those discussions then, 2024. But yes, there are already companies that tap data and feed it into the AI model for them to be able to tap or to identify which area they can reduce in terms of energy consumption and hence reducing their GHG. Okay, so we probably can have another short sessions on that. Yeah. But I remember I moderated that session in MI Conference 2024. Okay, so but tech-enabled data collection, of course, you can also use sensors, scanning machine, ERP system, data management platform that improve data accuracy and integration, and finally producing the report. But one thing interesting is that MIE through the Sustainability Committee where I'm part of, has the team, MIA Sustainability Team, has issued out the guidance on sustainability software database. Yeah, you can go to MIA Knowledge Center and you can access the sustainability software database compiled by MIA Sustainability Team. That's a great work by MIA Sustainability Team. Next, and if we need to ensure, however we collect data, we need to ensure data quality, accuracy, and consistency, where data validation process has to be performed, which is similar to any other data. Similar to your financial data, you look at the validation, cross-checking, audit trail, measurement protocols, and do data audits, internal data audits regularly. Okay, next, third-party data provider. There are names like Sustainalytics. These are the top 5, top 10, I would probably say. There are a few more. MSCI, Bloomberg, FTSE, FTSE, we call it FTSE Russell under LSEG, London Stock Exchange Group. And then there's a AI enable like Clarity AI. These are some of the providers, big names. They do provide data, they do provide analysis as well. Yeah, and they do provide rating, of course. Yeah. Let's come to the end of this topic on data. Data collection can pose a huge obstacle, especially if you don't have the infrastructure ready. Let's move to the next slide. You may have a challenge with regards to data gaps, inconsistent measurement, and limited resources. Always it's about limited resources because some companies may just started with regards to their sustainability journey. Then might have one or two people. Then they may not have the support with regard to resources in collecting a good data. Yeah, and also sometimes it's because a complex supply chain. Yeah, where the company may have facilities around the globe. Okay, there's so many facilities. Say Petronas, for example, they have more than 100 subsidiaries and they are present in various parts of the globe. So getting data accuracy and all that would take some time and would need a good infrastructure. But if you look at Petronas holding annual report, integrated annual report, you can see that they do have all their data ready. Yeah, if you have some time, we can go through the Petronas integrated report. So in Petronas integrated report, their sustainability statement is embedded in their integrated report. They didn't issue out a separate sustainability report. Yeah. Next slide. It's also important in terms of dealing with data silos or incomplete. because that will affect in terms of your final outcome with regards to your data that you shared with your stakeholders. Yeah, so there has to be interdepartment collaboration, and it's good to have centralized data repositories to avoid data silos. And finally, on the next slide, is to take care of this privacy, security, and regulatory concerns. So especially when we share social data, for example, be careful of the guardrails with regards to data protection, PDPA, GDPR, and all that. Yeah, so that has to be properly handled, and also to handle ethically in terms of the data handling. Personal data should not be exposed. Okay, that must be well secured, and there must be a proper security protocols with regard to your data handling. And in using next slide, third-party data, uh, third-party data sometimes are partially complete and partially available. So we have to understand that very well. So like especially financial institutions, they need robust data. They need data from the market. They need economic data. So they have to be very careful in terms of selecting provider. They have to understand, uh, you know, uh, limitations of the third-party data. So, and they need to probably uh, complement that with their internal data. So corroboration of data is very important, and the triangulation of data need to be carefully done. Okay, so this is the challenge using third-party data, because the third-party data is not always very complete and accurate. Next slide. Uh, so you can start. I think it's best for organization to start doing it right on the first time. There must be data definition, provide training with whoever is involved in data collection, all your business unit, and then set up your verification procedures, and then engage your team members, collaborate with partners, especially your vendors, and then to always have the knowledge sharing and socializing session, so that everyone understand why it's being done and how the final outcome looks like. Yeah. And last slide is about the technology. Of course, this is a way forward. If you have a blockchain technology embedded, that is easier because you don't have to key in, you don't have to manually check. The blockchain will feed the data straight into the ESG system or sustainability system, and then AI can be deployed to assist in terms of data analysis. And then IoT, okay, IoT where helps, okay, in terms of real-time monitoring. For example, satellite data, or in plantation, you have satellite access, and your IoT, say you have drone, take a picture of the whole plantation area, you are able to identify which probably leakage of in the uh, pump in the mill and all that. So that helps in terms of monitoring. Okay. So of course, obviously technology would help, but whether the technology is readily available for usage, that is another challenge. But again, that brings opportunity for technology providers to assist companies to solve their pain points with regards to collating data, especially in the ESG space. Okay. Another section to cover. But by the way, I have also shared with you in Google Drive on Toyota data playbook, which I think is very interesting. So when I look at how global organizations publish the data, like oil and gas in US, for example, they do have a separate data set on ESG. Yeah, I think, say, also in some jurisdictions, uh, like you can see Toyota, they have a playbook that have all the data grouped together. So I think this is a very good practice because if we put everything in our sustainability report, you know, uh, then the data may be everywhere. So of course, in our sustainability report, the data is captured part and parcel of the narrative, the non-financial part, but or the qualitative data. But putting data in one playbook or data set or data report would be, I think it's a brilliant idea as well. So that, those stakeholders that really need to see data in detail would be able to get it there. And then it also become a handy supplement to our sustainability report. Okay. So one example that I have shared is actually on the Toyota data playbook, but you can also find, on other companies of interest, say oil and gas, you can also find it on their website. Okay. Right. Let's look at sustainability reporting. Okay. So it's important to start with this discussion that there are many global reporting frameworks, and in some jurisdiction, or some region, they do have different regulatory or jurisdictional regulation that probably a bit different from, our what we commonly used globally. Yeah. So first, from the public sector point of view, due to signatories that countries have done, say UN SDG, where I think all countries under United Nations are signatories of those convention, then they will report their data under United Nations. Then we have IPCC on climate. Then we do have, this group or this committee that collate data on climate. Then we also have like diversity data under UNEP. They collate based on the Montreal Kunming Convention. They collate biodiversity data. So on country level, on public sector level, of course, their data includes, everything in the country, but the collation would be spearheaded or championed by a government entity. Yeah. Then there are those frameworks or reporting need to be done under market, but driven by the market. For example, in Malaysia, with the NSRF capital market will follow IFRS sustainability ISSB. Prior to the birth of ISSB, a lot of companies are using integrated reporting, and financial institutions are preparing based on TCFD. And GRI has been there also, has been voluntarily used by many organizations. And then we also have, non-profit like carbon disclosure project like CDP, where CDP are actually funded by many investors organization as well. And CDP also somehow do some type of rating based on certain area like carbon or forest or water. Yeah. And then on the regional pact like EU, they have their directive, like SFDR, Sustainable Finance Directive, CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. And then they issue out, I think EFRAG issue out the ESRS, the European Sustainability Reporting Standard. So I think this is important to understand that reporting is not just on annual reporting, it's not just for capital market purpose, but we also need to sometimes prepare report based on, who are the stakeholders surrounding our organization. Okay, next. In Malaysia, those listed entities governed by our capital market regulators, Securities Commission and Bursa Malaysia, we need to have the sustainability statement, based on the enhanced sustainability reporting framework. So we need to prepare data point as well. So if you look at the next slide, The next two slides are actually the data point or disclosure requirement that's mandatory under Bursa Malaysia. So this is where we need to share in terms of first sustainability matters, anti-corruption. We need to share percentage of employees who have received training on anti-corruption, percentage of operation assessed for corruption-related risks, confirmed incidents. Third is actually confirmed incidents of corruption and action taken. Anti-corruption is grouped under G, yeah. Then community and society, this under S, total amount invested in the community where the target beneficiaries are external to the listed issuer, total number of beneficiaries of the investment in communities. Then on third matter is on diversity, data on diversity. So it depends on how you want to do your analysis. Maybe diversity in terms of gender, diversity in terms of age, diversity in terms of the length of service, and so on and so forth. Then fourth on energy management, energy consumption is where based on electricity in terms of the type of fuels, yeah. Then health and safety, that there are three under health and safety: number of work-related fatalities, lost time incident rate, and number of employees trained on health and safety standards. Next slide. The sixth sustainability matter will be on labor practice and standards. There are 4 reporting points: total hours of training by employee category, percentage of employees that are contractors or temporary staff, total numbers of employee turnover by employee category, number of substantiated complaints concerning human rights violation. Then supply chain management, matters number 7 on spending on local supplier. Matters number 8, data privacy and security. Number of substantiated complaints concerning breaches of customer privacy and losses of customer data. Number 9 on water, total volume of water used. Number 10 on waste management, waste diverted from disposal, that means recycle, waste directed to disposal, that goes to the bin, okay, to the landfill. Then finally 11 on emission management, that involves scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, but scope 3 only relates to business travel and employee commuting. So these are mandatory data that companies need to send to Bursa Malaysia, and then companies also need to prepare the sustainability statement. Okay. All right. Next, we shall do an activity again. You can go to SAMB Sustainability Report, and I would like you to to go through and scroll again the report and ascertain how the bank meet the requirements of Bursa Malaysia. Okay, sustainability disclosure. So can you just put it on the chat? What did you find in SAMB Sustainability Report that meets the Bursa Malaysia disclosure requirement? Okay, can we take like 5 minutes to do that? Feel free, 5 to 10 minutes. Feel free to browse through, because that give you really a feel of how it has been done in practice. Okay, anyone has any observation or comment? Can you please type on the chat? Okay, you can find the information not just on sustainability report, because in the integrated report, you can also find their sustainability statement, which is consistent with their sustainability report. Okay, anyone, if you can refer to any particular page? CIMB has this Sustainability Report 2024 Performance Data Supplement. I think this is, I really like this piece, whereby it actually brings together the performance data. They group it under one booklet. So here you can see the customers in terms of the total retail branches, service terminals, consumer banking customers, total click, SAMB clicks users, mobile app users. You can see their NPS, customer experience. This is the GSIP is actually the the financing that they have actually they have provided to with regards to sustainable impact. Yes, green social sustainable impact financing or green financing, in short. So you can see the number of disbursement that have been done with regards to consumer banking, commercial banking, wholesale banking, and you can see it based on country: Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Cambodia, and others. Then you can see also indicator in terms of home financing. This indicator related to economic inclusion, home financing, vehicle financing, personal unit trust, green financing, solar, ESG investment product, commercial banking, wholesale banking, suku, sustainable link, treasury and financing. You can also look at sustainability team deposit and investment account, and then sustainable financing policy and sustainable due diligence that have been conducted. Yeah, due diligence relate to also part of Bank Negara guidance policy document. So all the due diligence that have been conducted. Then in terms of governance and ethics data, directed by gender, directed by age. Then data on human rights, bribery and corruption. Employees data in terms of different, this is under social, yeah, different diversity in term of country, in term of job category, in term of gender, in term of age. And then new hires from various country in ASEAN. And then hires by job category, by age, by gender, and internal hires. And then they do have a turnover rate and the number and distribution. And then in terms of diversity inclusion, they do have it as well, analysis. Differently able work individuals also disclosed on diversity and inclusion. Percentage of temporary staff, ratio of remuneration between male and female. This is under DEI again, diversity and inclusion. Okay, you can look at different stage of employees in terms of the ratio. Almost equivalent lah. Yeah, and also based on countries. Then L&D, learning and development, is also part of Bursa Malaysia requirement in terms of training for employees. So CMB discussed in great detail training hours per employee by country, by job category, by gender, and employee train on sustainability. Okay, so there's I think in total more than 10,000 employees are being trained on sustainability. Employees trained on anti-bribery and corruption. So 2024, almost 100%. Okay, L&D in terms of e-learning modules. So you can see a lot of data on employees, on suppliers. Okay, now on community, how is CIMB engaged with community, on environment, all the data with regards to the properties in the operational boundary, total operational GHG emissions are there, GHG emission, carbon credits retired, net GHG emission, scope 1, scope 2, can you see there, direct GHG emissions, scope 1 based on different countries, total energy consumption, purchase grid electricity under gigajoules, purchase REC, the renewable energy certificate, rooftop solar electricity, fuel consumption genset, and fuel consumption transportation. Okay, those are the energy consumption. Okay, and then electricity consumption, water consumption and emission from purchased water, emission from waste generated and disposed, emission from business travels. You can see those computation there. Emission from employee commuting, and then emission from leased premises, emission from shipments, emission from off-premise self-service terminals, then also include touch and go group emission. This on the REC redeem. Okay, because as I mentioned, they do purchase carbon offset for carbon offset purpose, carbon credit. So this is the data booklet, which I really love this data booklet because you can see, the information all in one place. Okay. Okay, let's look at the next on the NSRF. NSRF is our Malaysia National Sustainability Framework issued by Securities Commission, and it actually adopts the ISSB, IFRS S1 and S2, issued by ISSB. It is to improve transparency and accountability, and it's also to support the national goal. But the next slide, you can see that the NSRF has a roadmap from 2025 to 2030, where I think based on this roadmap, the first group that need group one would be those under capitalization of 2 billion and above. Okay, that includes like CIMB, yeah, and also other financial institution. I suppose they need to to be ready by 2025, 2026, then full adoption by 2027. Yeah. And then we have group two, their full adoption by 2028, and group three by 2030. So those are the roadmap. It's a journey, of course, but I think most companies are really upscaling and preparing for the adoption. Okay. Next, so really, I just want to share because ISSB is actually what we say is is a merger, okay, between the other frameworks like TCFD. So a big chunk of ISSB come from TCFD. I would say that quite a huge number of ISSB came from TCFD. Okay, so like the four pillars, which is governance, strategy, risk management, metrics, and target, and this actually has been there in TCFD, but in certain part of the world, they have adopted TCFD. So moving to ISSB would not be strenuous because they have the data information, because they have actually complied with TCFD. And the information of governance strategy, risk management, metrics, and target are really very important for decision making. Hence, that's part and parcel of those information that need to be disclosed in the report in TCFD. And now we are moving to ISSB adoption. Next. So with regards to climate change, TCFD focus on climate. Hence, you can see the first standard that ISSB has issued on S2 is regarding climate. So climate change brings risk. Yeah. If the global warming move to 2 degrees Celsius, 3 degrees, and 5 degrees Celsius, the level of impact would be greater from a higher global warming that we are experiencing, and that has been discussed in our session 1. Okay, next. So and TCFD looks at the type of risk, like transition or physical risk. So there are two categories that under TCFD, transition and physical risk, and we are using these two categories. And we are not just looking at risk, but we are also looking at opportunities like resource efficiency, energy source, product, service, markets, and resilience. And we need to consider the risk and opportunity when we are looking at strategic plan, and when we are handling risk management, and also looking at the financial impact, analyzing the impact to our revenues, expenditure, as well as our cash flow statement, balance sheet, with comprising asset, liabilities, and capital. Okay, so those risks bring impact to our financial statements. Yeah. Next. So in TCFD itself, they have recommended disclosures, and TCFD provided guidance for all sectors. And TCFD also provided supplemented guidance for certain sectors. So, back then in 2022, I attended all the certification on TCFD I think, website where all these are being part of those certification by TCFD with regards to their recommendations, which, if you have been there in 2022, moving to ISSB would not be onerous when we look at the requirement of the TCFD recommendations. Then four components of TCFD then, which now we can see that in ISSB. Let's move to the next slide. Yeah, first is governance. We look at the questions of how the organization governance around climate-related risks and opportunities, how the board perform their oversight on climate-related risks and opportunities, and also what are the management role in assessing and managing those risks. With regard to strategy about the disclosing the actual and potential impact on climate risks and opportunities, and how does that affect the plan, and how those risks and opportunities are identified over short, medium, and long term, which you can see this is also consistent with integrated reporting. We're looking at value creation, and also value preservation over the short, medium, and long term. Okay. And then describe the impact of climate risks and opportunities on business strategy and financial planning, and how resilience is the organization with regards to their strategy after taking into consideration of the risks and opportunities. And then with regards to the risk management regarding revolving questions about how well those risks are being identified, assessed, and how those mitigation plan are being developed around those risks, and then assess as well as what kind of opportunities that we can identify, for the company as well. And then also on how the overall risk management has integrated, all materiality aspects of the sustainability and ESG. And then the interesting thing that probably a lot of companies in Malaysia probably have not disclosed in the past is about metrics and target. Yeah. With regards to detailed metrics and targets in terms of the GHG emission, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, and metrics and target on other areas as well, such as water waste management. So metrics and targets, I think you probably won't find detailed information in many of our public listed entities or sustainability report in the past. So moving forward with the adoption of ISSB under NSRF, then we need to start looking at the metrics and targets. So the other part of, next slide. So the other part within TCFD and now in ISSB that has been discussed, among all companies that have adopted TCFD in the past is about scenario analysis. Yeah, it's actually it's not a prediction of a future performance, but it's more of helping in terms of your risk assessment and building your strategy to explore what probably may affect your business as usual assumption. Yeah, and this help in terms of the strategic thinking moving forward. This also helps, I think, in terms of the preparation and mitigation. Okay, and next slide. So really, the climate scenarios look into the assumptions if the global warming is just be 1.5 degrees Celsius, as we always spoke about. But what if it goes beyond that? What is if it's 2 degrees Celsius? What if it's like 3 degrees Celsius? And how can that impact, the warming projection, impact the weather pattern, how it impact the conditions, and how it's impacting the ability of the business to continue doing what they're doing and to continue executing the strategic plan. Okay, that's important. Okay, so if like it moved to 3 degrees Celsius of global warming, and if it's a really big flood that potentially will happen with that effect of global warming, Then for financial institution, they may have an impact, okay, due to affect to the mortgage or to the houses that they have finance. Okay, so that is more of analysis on what potentially can happen. So this is what we call climate scenario planning. And next, so this is like, it's just, some examples in terms of scenario analysis based on the global warming. Say if it's just 1.5 degree, in terms of transition risk, we may feel that it's just an orderly transition, not so emergency, not so pressing. Okay, it may impact us to our business. Then it may impact a little, depends on what kind of sector we are in. It also may bring opportunities like new green technologies with regards to, however, if it's going to 4-degree increase in global warming, then I think the transition risk may be more pressing and more, uh, may bring more hard impact, such as rapid transition, and then regulatory measures will be more intense, and then price of raw material may increase, for example. With regards to physical risk, you can also see from the screen that the impact of 1.5 degree as compared to 4-degree global warming would be different. For example, if it goes to 4 degrees Celsius, there will be significant melting of ice in Arctic. That's based on science. There may be reduction in crop yields. There may be sea level rise. And the weather will be probably more heaty, and people may be suffering from extreme heat. So that is the scenario if 4 degrees Celsius of global warming. So we are looking at assumption what will be happen based on different scenario of global warming. So that is what scenario assumptions are all about. Okay, let's move. So now, I think that was in COP26 in Glasgow, where ISSB was given birth, and now we call it IFRS, sustainability. And it was, I think, a good pact that has been achieved, a good discussion, and a good decision that has been achieved among all the other frameworks like integrated report, SASB, CDSB, and TCFD that move into merge into IFRS sustainability. Okay, back to this discussion. So I have to give a little bit of history on that. So you see, when from the point of view of IR has started way back in 2013, 2015. If you look back at the vision of IR, recently when I gave training on integrated report, looking back at the vision of IR, the vision is to have a report that helps in terms of promoting prosperity. Yeah, vision of looking at prosperity. So, and IR is promoting non-financial disclosure beyond just financial disclosure, so that we can also share information regarding what we are doing with the different types of capital and how we create value based on different types of capital. Okay, so this is where the the um the wave in terms of getting more information that relates to value creation, not just financial, has been there. And in the same at the same time, sustainability accounting standard board has been much used in the US, I think. And then we have CDSB, and the financial stability board came out with the TCFD. But so the need for data and reports with regards to non-financial have evolved over time. And finally, the group of five decided to achieve that decision to set up IFRS sustainability or sustainability standard board under the auspices of IFRS. Okay. And so to start with, then they agreed to come up with a general disclosure, and that's one. And S2 is about climate, and much of what is in TCFD went into that S2 as well. Okay, next. And of course, SSB is to develop and to guide in terms of the disclosure standards on sustainability, and to promote transparency and accountability. And ISSB focus on investor and stakeholder. Yeah, both investor and stakeholder. And it aims to be consistent and aligned with the IASB. So you see in IFRS, there are now two standard board. One is IASB for financial statements, and the other one is ISSB for sustainability. So and the aim is to provide connectivity and consistency. So next, uh, and uh, I think the purpose also includes the risk assessment, the ability to identify sustainability risks, and also that helps in terms of managing and mitigating it, and enhance accountability among the governance, among the senior management as well, and the disclosure globally, and also the promotion of sustainable practice. Okay, so as I have next slide. As I have shared, it is both boards are under IFRS structure, where the oversight is done by a foundation trustee, and then under IFRS Foundation Monitoring Board, they look at public accountability. So there's a very good oversight structure, which in the past IASB has, then now it's ISSB has the same structure. I think that brings trust and credibility to the standards. Next. And if you look at the conceptual foundation, we're looking at fair presentation, similar to IASB standards. We're looking at materiality, reporting entity, and you can see that connectivity, one of the pillar of that is connected information. That is connectivity. And connectivity is one very core concept within integrated reporting. Yeah. And the idea is to, I think if we understand that very well, to promote connectivity within information, so that any reader, the stakeholders that read, would not look at it in silos, and will also drive integrated thinking among the preparers. Yeah, because all in all, one company is about how each and every department of a company move together to create value. So that's why when it comes to reporting, information also need to describe or display the same connectivity that should be understood by the reader. Okay, so that brings clearer understanding to the reader about how things works within a company or organization. So there's a question there, is SASB standards applicable to integrated reporting? SASB integrated reporting is a framework. So IR can be used together with SASB standards. Yeah. So if in the annual report you adopt IR framework, yeah, with regards to the content element, and also the foundation of six capital, and then when you go through your content element, you can then also use SASB standards based, that relates to your sector. So SASB standards has guidance on about 77 sectors. That includes like construction, that includes probably financial service sectors and all that. So if you are disclosing information in your integrated report, and that confirmation relates to sustainability matters, you can refer to SASB standards so that it is interoperable. Yeah, later on I'll share with you the interoperability of the different frameworks and standards. Okay, next. So next, let's look at what is an S1. So I'll go through briefly. I have given you in the Google Drive the standards. It is a comprehensive disclosure framework and focusing on relevance and faithfulness, and aim to improve comparability on how organizations or company disclose their sustainability information. Okay, next. So it's very important to look at the principles and of the framework. Focus on materiality. Again, materiality is very important because you look at environmental, social, and governance factor. As I have shared earlier, there could be salient sustainability matters to individual company on respective sector. Yeah, so identifying your materiality factors are really very important. Then also to ensure consistency and of disclosure over time and completeness of information to enhance integrity of your disclosure of your report. Next, this is really very important. Okay, uh, what do we define material? So in ISSB, information is in S1. Information is material if omitting, misstating, okay, omitting if it's not there when it's needed for investors' decision, misstating if of course, if it's wrong, then that is it shouldn't be done. That's why we need verifiability, validation, or obscuring it. So the word obscuring is interesting. Obscuring if it's if it's what we call if it's confusing, or if the information may distract, for example. So omitting, misstating, obscuring it could reasonably be expected to influence investors' decision. Okay, so I think the obscuring is something that very interesting that we need to really understand. Let's look at the next slide, whereby in paragraph B27, it states that example of circumstances uh, might result in material information being obscured include not clearly distinguished from additional information that is not material. Yeah. So investors need to focus on what's material. But if you put too many information, then it's not investors or readers, stakeholders are not able to distinguish or differentiate in terms of what material and what not material. So that is how obscuring impact, yeah, the understandability. And then obscuring example, another example is if the material information is disclosed in sustainability related financial disclosure, but the language used is vague or unclear. Okay, and the third example is if it's scattered throughout the sustainability related financial disclosure. Scattered. You read probably one page, you didn't realize that's another page that probably talks about information that complement this page, and therefore information are not able to be holistically read and not to be well understood. Okay, so that is obscuring. And then the fourth example is about aggregation, if it is inappropriately aggregation, or the fifth one, inappropriately aggregated. Say you aggregate information, but they are not similar. Okay, so for example, diesel and petrol, it is energy consumption, but they are not similar. Okay, so that's the is example. And then finally, if the understandability of the sustainability related financial disclosure is reduced as a result of material information being hidden by immaterial information to extent that a primary user is unable to determine what information is material. So this, I think, is really important. I have I've gone through a lot of integrated report. I've gone through a lot of sustainability reports. So there are times when we read, we can really clearly identify, oh, these are the material factors, and we really can clearly identify how it's impacting the decision making and how it is impacting the strategy and the value created by the company or the results or the performance. But there are certain times when we look at that sustainability report or integrated report, we feel that how come everything is there, but we feel that, oh, this item, does it really relate to them, to their type of business? Okay, so this is where sometimes you test it, you have that question, this factor, does it relate to their type of business or to their sector? Okay, so that's why I think this obscuring is really important and materiality is really important. Next, any question on this? Because it's really an important part of the standard S1. Uh, the other disclosure requirement, the key disclosure requirement, of course, on governance. Okay, that's also, I think that's also part of Bursa Malaysia, sustainability guidance on governance, and also part of integrated report. And next, on strategy. Okay, so this is interesting. If the company has prepared IR in the past, then they would probably have strategy disclosure already part of their annual report. But if they've not, adopted IR, then this might be something new for them in terms of strategy disclosure. Yeah, if you look again at practice in Malaysia, from my observation, there are 4 types. First, they 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 didn't adopt IR, and their sustainability statement is embedded part of the annual report. Second, they they didn't adopt IR, but they disclose a separate, they have a separate sustainability report. Yeah, and the annual report is not based on IR framework. Third, they adopted IR, then they have a separate sustainability report. So there are 2 booklets. And fourth, they adopted IR, and they also have their sustainability statement and information part of their IR. Okay, so they don't have 2 booklets. So that is my observations on practices in Malaysia. But if they have adopted IR, they would already have the value creation model, and they would have their strategy disclosed, yeah, and their performance disclosed, yeah. So then going into S1 and would not be, I think, a strenuous effort. So because it's more or less they already have in their IR. So under strategic disclosure, as I have discussed, which is similar to TCFD just now, is about sustainability related risks and opportunities, is approach to managing sustainability related risks and opportunities, and the effect of these risks and opportunities in their business model, strategy, and cash flow. So here it talks about business model, yeah, which is consistent with what we have in IR, and strategy and cash flow, yeah. And then resilience of entity strategy to significant related risk. Okay, so this is where when you have the risk assessment, and then either physical or transition risk, and then you see and analyze and explore how that risk affect your strategy moving forward. Okay, and finally is on entities transition plan, yeah, if any. So I think this is again also very interesting to look at the transition plan to be disclosed. Okay, the next key disclosure requirements. Okay, the third one is on risk management, on how the entity or the company identify, assess, prioritize, and monitor sustainability related risks and opportunities. This is also, you need also to disclose the process of doing so, the process of identifying and assessing, the process for managing, and the integration of this process into the ERM. Okay, so that need to be disclosed. Okay, because the process of identifying it requires, the engagement with the right stakeholders, engagement with your internal department, in order for you to really identify your sustainability related risks, especially related to climate, related to water, and all your material matters. And finally, the key disclosure requirements on the metrics. Metrics are quantitative. Yeah, quantitative metrics are disclosed to measure sustainability performance and its impact on financial statements. So this require you to look at your risk opportunities and then to identify the metrics to measure and monitor your performance. Yeah, your target moving forward. So what is your target to manage that risk? And based on practices that are already there, some companies measure or put out their metrics based on the percentage reduction. A percentage reduction. Some they may have absolute quantity reduction. Yeah, reduce probably GHG by perhaps they say by metric tons, yeah, by 10 metric tons. Some may do it by, say, reduce by 5%. So it depends on what is best to set the metric and related to the company operation. And then what's your target for year one, target for year two, target for year three. And as for uh, Bursa Malaysia requires three 3 years of historical data, yeah, comparative historical data. And when you are disclosing the metrics and target, you need to also look at the validity of the metrics and target, including the methodologies used. For example, waste management. Say you aim to reduce paper waste by, say, 50 kg. So how are you going to do that? Yeah, everything, all meetings need to be paperless. Okay, so then perhaps from if you do the assessment, all your meetings are paperless, no printing, less purchase of paper, then you may be able to reduce, yeah, certain kilograms of your paper or certain ream of paper. Okay, so that's the example that I can give, simple example on how metrics and targets are being set. All right, and S2 is about climate. It is actually fully incorporates the TCFD recommendation. Go to the previous slide. Okay, so it is a clear instruction to report climate, and if you follow the development in ISSB, climate is coming from TCFD, coming from discussion on financial stability, looking at the Paris Agreement, looking at, uh, uh, the discussions of investors and regulators. So climate change is one of the critical matter or material matter that United Nations also and looking at is also managing. And this is where I think it's high time that the ISSB chose the climate as the first standard, because I think it's also about how financial institutions are looking at greening the financing. So in this TCFD, if you look back at the emergence of TCSB, it is actually based on the work of Financial Stability Board, looking how the financial institution play a role in terms of greening the financial sector. So it is also to meet the information needs of investors as well as all the stakeholders. And this has to be used in accordance with IFRS S1. It requires also disclosure on climate risk, related risks and opportunities. So in S1, we talk about sustainability risks and opportunities. In S2, we go specific into climate risks and opportunities, and it requires industry specific disclosure. And when it comes to industry specific disclosure, S2 state that you can build on SASB standard, because SASB has 77 industry specific standards that one of those may be applicable to your company. Yeah. So let's move to the next slide. Uh, I think this is more or less the same information. Let's move to another slide. So similar to the structure of S1, but this S2 also has the same structure, talking about physical and transition risk, but very much focused on climate. And then when it comes to opportunity, in S1, we're looking at sustainability, opportunities in sustainability as a whole. In climate, we talk about opportunities in the low carbon economy, such as opportunities in investment in renewable energy, energy efficiency, innovation like green building. Yeah, try to reduce energy consumption and GHG emission within the building, like green building, and then retrofitting of building. So this is also consistent with the taxonomy. If you look at CCPT, Bank Negara CCPT, if you look at EU taxonomy, they all talk about, transitioning to the low carbon economy and reducing GHG. Okay, so then that all this information also helps in terms of informed decision making with regards to climate. Okay, so S2 is really on focusing on climate. And then we also look at within our company, what are the footprint. So that's why identifying the footprint of GHG emission, including carbon, including methane, um, is important, because then we know what is the touch point with regards to emission. Okay, because we are looking at climate. But it also includes waste, yeah, because waste is also related to climate. So whatever that has the touch point with climate will be scoping. Okay. Next is we need to disclose the effect of climate related risk and opportunity into the decision making, and how in our strategy we responded to the climate related risks and opportunities, and how the company is resourcing and planning to resource these plans and activities, and the company's progress against previous reported plans. So this is really requiring, so apart from reporting, that's why in my first session, it's not it's not just about reporting is at the end. So the implementation of transitioning, that's why the transition plan is important. How the company uh, identify their emission footprint, and then how they explore opportunity to move to low carbon operation, and what would be their plan in terms and strategies to adopt, yeah, the new or the low carbon operation, and what would be their budget. Okay, so that's part and parcel of their strategy. Okay, for example, oil and gas, they 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 have the opportunity to embark on CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage, to capture the emission, okay, from the air. Yeah, so this is from the environment. So this is one opportunity to do so in oil and gas, and also probably other sector. So if that's the plan, then the plan needs to be embedded in your strategy. And of course, it has to be well budgeted. So this is where financial connectivity comes in, because whatever the plan is, then you need funding to do so. Okay. If you read, Toyota, that is also an interesting example for us to see their strategy in doing so. And the next one, okay, which was what I mentioned about the current and anticipated financial effect. Yeah, a company is required to disclose both quantitative and qualitative information. Okay, somehow the slides didn't show well. Okay, but okay, it's just that there's a face. So this is where uh, if you look at anticipated financial effect, this is, I think, the connectivity with our financial statement, and this is embedded in the S2. Okay, so that goes back to that conversation, how much the accounting function need to be part and parcel of the ISSB adoption of the company. So when you look at anticipated financial impact, I think definitely the finance function need to be, play a major role in S1 and S2 implementation, because your expertise, the accountant's expertise is needed with regards to looking at financial impact. Okay, so quantitative information may be a single amount or a range. So you can provide, in terms of a range, not just a single absolute amount. And if it is really difficult to identify the quantitative, company is allowed to provide qualitative. Okay, if you feel that you are not able to separately identify the quantitative measure, and then if there's a high level of measurement uncertainty, really cannot quantify, um, and if it's really onerous, where it is not commensurate with the company's skill, expertise, and resources. Okay, and if again it brings together here the wording from IASB about undue cost of effort. Okay, and also the use of all reasonable and supportable information available to the company. Yeah, so this is where I think some wordings are similar to IASB, with regards to standards adoption. Okay, next. The next part is on climate resilience. Is disclosure about companies' strategy and business model, whether you are safeguarded and you are resilient towards any climate-related changes, development, and uncertainties. Okay, so that is where your scenario analysis is required. And, then there's also guidance related to how the scenario analysis are being prepared. So this also needs data, a lot of data with regards to all the assumptions that are that need to be included in the scenario analysis. So, and the guidance also requires that scenario analysis must commensurate with the company track and circumstances. So that has to commensurate. And company need to use whatever data that they have, not just internal data, and also probably external data. But again, it goes back to the company's ability to do so. Whether that principle of undue cost or effort, is actually taken into consideration. Right. Next slide on GHG emission. Okay. So here, the requirement at S2 is to company to disclose scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So most companies feel that scope 3 is really onerous, okay? Because scope 3 is where you need your vendor to share their data, and it will take time for you to get your vendor to do so. So NSRF provide the relief from disclosure of scope 3. I think that goes back to the roadmap just now, based on which group the company is, group 1 and group 2, you're given 2 years, and group 3, 3 years with regards to scope 3. And also I think on the first year of applying S2, companies also exempted from scope 3. So I think this is where preparation is still needed, because we know that scope 3 needs a lot of information. So preparation to get it is very much needed. And for banking, insurance, and asset management, they need to report their finance emission. Okay. Yeah, so this, I think that explain why you can see the CIMB report, that for financial institutions like CIMB, the reports, the data more robust as compared to in other sectors. Okay, next. For industry specific requirement, I in S2, it is mentioned that you can refer to one of those guidance under SASB, because SASB has 77 sector guidance. And this is where there's a question, can you use GRI? I think you can also refer to GRI, but you have to ensure whatever usage of GRI, you need to comply with requirements of S1 and S2. Yeah, so I think one example is about the obscuring of material information. Next slide. Okay, that relates to the fourth pillar on targets. Okay, climate related targets is you have to put out the climate related targets as your disclosure. And then the characteristic of each target need to be also disclosed. And not only the disclosure of the information on target, but how do you set the target and how do you review the target? Okay, what supporting information and supporting data that you use for you to set a target, which means that the target cannot be plucked from the sky. Okay, it has to be based on your operation, your footprint, and then you also need to see your transition plan with regards to how you set the target. Okay, and in a way, we talk about the feasibility of the targets, the reasonableness, because at the end of the day, next year, you're going to see whether you meet that target. And therefore, you need to set a reasonable target. Okay, and then the last bullet, this is where after a year, when you report next, then you need to look at your performance against each target. Okay, and based on conversations from companies, I think this is where it is also something that they need to observe and to be prepared of, because once you set your target, you need to have your implementation plan and monitor your implementation plan so that your performance at year end or would be able to be compared to the target. Okay. All right. Actually, next slides. There are illustrative that has been out there with regards to ISSB. One is from ISCA, I think, and then the other two was from at the day I prepared this, it was still a draft from Securities Commission. But I think this is already finalized. Maybe sometime last week, the illustrative were launched. Two illustrative reports were launched and finalized. You can download this from the website of Securities Commission under the PACE. Yeah, the AS the PACE initiative of of Securities Commission. You can download the illustrative report. Okay. Okay, we discussed about ISSB just now, but I just want to uh, go through with you a bit on integrated reporting and why this is important, because we are picking up also from what we already have. Many organizations in Malaysia have produced their IR, and IR is also, part of ISSB. And so it's also important to look at the interoperability between IR and ISSB. They are not contradictory. Okay. And so just a brief, probably this is my shortest way to introduce IR to you. So IR is a framework. IR is a framework, and there are three important components that you need to remember. First is the fundamental concept of value creation, and I think one thing that is interesting, that is special, is that IR look at capital from six angle, yeah, which is financial capital. Then we look at manufactured capital. IR looks at intellectual capital, human capital, social and networking capital, as well as natural capital. Okay, so the idea of capital is broadened under IR fundamental concept. And then IR has 7 guiding principles, okay, such as, materiality, stakeholders focus, and then also on connectivity, on reliability, so and on conciseness. And IR has 8 content elements. Okay, the content elements include, the way the organization is being presented. It's about your organizational background, and then on governance, on strategy, on risk management, on performance, on forward-looking information, and then on basis of preparation. Okay, so there are 8 content elements. I've covered all. Okay, so basically, this framework is to guide organization in terms of their reporting preparation, and most companies adopt IR framework for their annual report. Okay, so this is where some companies like Petronas, Petronas is not a company, it's an organization. It's a business entity. Petronas is a business entity, though it's under the Act. Okay, so Petronas is a business entity, and it has adopted IR. Under Petronas, they have like listed subsidiaries as well. So Petronas include their sustainability information into the IR. So they don't prepare two separate reports. Okay, so next, there's a very brief and quick information on IR. So IR is interoperable with S1 and S2, the ISSB standard. They are jointly, because ISB and ISSB are jointly responsible for IR framework. Okay, so I have this opportunity to be part of the integrated reporting IRCC and integrated reporting and connectivity council. Okay, so we do have like 4 meetings in a year, and where both chairman of ISB and ISB normally attend the meeting, and this is where the connectivity discussions happen. Yeah, so both ISB and ISB jointly responsible for IR framework, and they work together to explore how we build connectivity between the two standards. And there will be a lot of conversations and suggestions from the IR community with regards to how we also connect with the management commentary in ISB. And I think at the end of the day, the aim is to ensure that the stakeholders get a wholesome interconnected information with regards to sustainability and financial reports. Yeah. Next. And the integrated reporting is also reflected in the work of the ISSB. For example, the principle of connected information, okay, risks and opportunities. So that's why whatever you have seen in IR content elements where companies have adopted, I think more or less those are embedded into in S1 and S2, and also consistent with TCFD. So all are consistent actually. Next. So the interoperability with S1 and S2, because they are, you know, the architecture and the way the standards are being developed consistent with the framework and consistent with safety. And then there are also mapping tools. If you can see on the website of IFRS on the Knowledge Hub, you can see the mapping tools, the FAQs and the guides. Okay, I'll share a bit of that, FAQs. So the next slide is on the FAQs. Okay, so in these FAQs, you can see that there's one question on how do risks and opportunities as defined in IR framework relate to sustainability related risks and opportunities as defined in S1. Okay, so I think from here it says that in the development of S1 acknowledged that that companies do not operate in a vacuum, and sustainability risks and opportunities connect to their stakeholders, societies, environment, natural environment, the capitals that we talk about in IR. And then the framework refer to the whatever risks and opportunities that can affect companies' ability to create value. So those are consistent over the short, medium, and long term. Okay, that's how the consistency is being built between S1 as well as IR. Okay. Then the next slide, you can see another question, FAQs. Is it expected that companies making disclosure in accordance with S1 and S2 include those disclosure only under risks and opportunities and integrated report? So it's the answer is that disclosure on risks and opportunities provided in accordance with IFRS sustainability disclosure reflect different aspects of how a company's value is created, preserved, or eroded over time than those in integrated report. As a result, this disclosure may be relevant across different guiding principle and content element in an integrated report. Okay, so that's I think how we are guided, yeah. And why is it important to disclose information on opportunities in relation to risk? Okay, so that's also information that is consistent to IR framework, because in IR framework, they also need to disclose opportunities, not just the risk. Okay, because it's a forward-looking information, and it helps organization understanding and readiness, yeah, for their future development. Okay. So an effective organization also continuously monitor the operating environment for risk and opportunity. So they do have reference to the paragraph 2.26 and 2.27 on the IR framework. Then also the next slide about should opportunities be discussed at the same degree as risks. Okay, so that goes back to the paragraph 4.23, 4.25 of IR framework. So it depends, yeah. Because because the IR framework does not emphasize which one is more superior than the other, the risk over opportunity or vice versa. So it depends on the analysis of the company. And finally, I'm sharing with you the mapping tool. The next slide, I'm sharing with you the mapping tool between IR framework to ISSB mapping tool with regards to which paragraph are relevant. They are relevant when we look at IR as compared to ISSB. Okay, so those paragraphs are there. for us to refer to. Okay, so those on IR. The next one is on GRI. Okay, because GRI also has been adopted by companies in Malaysia and globally as a guide for them to prepare their sustainability information to be included in their report. So GRI, it's a one of the first and mostly adopted global standard and has been adopted by many companies around the globe. Yeah, so this is one of the earliest standards that are available as guidance. And next, you with regards to GRI standards, it has detailed guidance on various aspects, yeah, of sustainability on the foundation, the material topics, and they do have like for oil and gas, coal, agriculture. I think more and more industry specific guidance are available, and then on market presence. So there are different components within GRI. It covers the market, it covers the environment, it covers the social. So like 4 series and above covers the social. So it has guidance on various components of ESG. And next, so this is the guidance by ISSB with regards to interoperability with GRI. Okay, so the highlight is about the risk of obscuring disclosure, applying the IFRS sustainability disclosure standard alongside other sustainability related standards such as GRI standard must not obscure information that is material for primary user of general purpose financial reports. Okay, so that's the guidance, yeah. And in addition, if an entity applies other source of guidance such as GRI without applying the requirement of IFRS ISSB standards, therefore, if they do so, then they cannot say they claim compliance with ISSB. Okay, so the other conversation that I have observed with regard to materiality, GRI I think promote double materiality, whereas ISSB talk about financial materiality. So in GRI, I think they do talk about financial and impact materiality. So there was a conversation when I was part of that, the question whether it is acceptable by SSP for double neutrality. The answer is no. SSP says it's only financial neutrality. Okay, so I think that's need to be clear of that as well. Okay, okay. The last bit that I want to cover is on the SASB standards. And this has been used, but largely in probably North America and partly in EU, but we are not very familiar in this part of the world. So next slide. It is investor focused and it focuses on financial neutrality. Yeah. So if you can see SASB focus on issue reasonably likely to impact an entity's cash flow, access to finance, operating performance or risk profile. So it's very investor focused, which is consistent with ISSB. Okay, next, it has 77 industries, and you can, I didn't give you the whole set because it's too much, but you can go to SASB websites and which is linked to FRS website as well to identify the the SASB, industry specific standards, 77, and you choose the one that is relevant to your sector, yeah, for company. And IFRS also has issued an educational material in last year in terms of using the SASB standards to meet the requirement in IFRS 1. Okay, so next, actually in short, next slide, in short, I can share with you that SASB standards would be very relevant to the pillar on metrics and targets. Okay, so in the S1 and S2, you have governance, strategy, risk management, metrics and target. SASB standards would be very relevant to the metrics and target, because a lot of guidance with regards to metric and targets and in SASB metrics. Yeah. So I think this is where in S1, S2, in S2 especially, in the climate standard, S2 talk about referring to SASB for the metrics with regards to your industry specific requirement. Okay. Can you still hear my voice? Ayuni, testing. I hope my voice, you can still
Yes,
hear
doctor,
me.
we can hear you.
All right.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Okay, next, last one, okay, is on carbon disclosure project. Yeah. So this is another interesting bit, because CDP is a non-profit for charity, but CDP actually is funded by many asset managers. I think about more than 700 asset managers are part of. So CDP, if you go to CDP website, you can search, take the name of any company or listed entities that you want to search or search on. And if you type, you can get information whether there's a assessment on those company or there's no information at all. So for companies to be assessed by CDP, they have a template where companies need to input all the information based on the template and voluntarily send to CDP assessment. So they have like, I think, rate 1, rate 2, they do have some sort of rating. So since it is funded by a lot of asset managers, so a lot of investors do look at CDP rating to get the information for on the company, on their target company. Okay. So but CDP is consistent with ISSB. Yeah, I think the template is consistent with ISSB. Okay, so you can go and look at CDP website and try to search for company you are interested on. Okay, with regards to the assessment. Okay. Uh, so next, I don't think we have enough time to look at this, but you can look at CIMB sustainability report. One thing is that CIMB in 2024, partially have met the ISSB, okay, voluntarily, meet ISSB partially. You can look at the first few pages where they said that they have partially met ISB requirement. Okay, and you can see also the mapping on how they have met ISB requirement. Okay, the mapping comes towards the end, I think, of the report. Okay, but we don't have time to go through that now. Next, so I just need to share, last sections on the sustainability reporting process. Uh, it depends on the scale of organization. Organization is very, very big with uh, operations outside Malaysia in some other region. Then data collection and also scaling the data and to make it consistent would probably be a challenge. But there has to be those steps where, preparing in terms of first to get the management buy-in, to get the tone at the top from the board, and then assemble the team, choose the right standards, develop a plan for the reports, and then define the material topics, understand, identify, assess, and prioritize based on your the company's facts and circumstances, the company's operational strategy. Then monitor where you design, communicate, and implement the policy, the implementation plan, the goals, the metrics, and then uh, connect with stakeholders to look at what matters to them, conduct risk assessment, engagement strategy, plan and engage stakeholders, get information and feedback from your stakeholders. Then you get all the data from your business units and all parties within the organization. That is part and parcel of connecting with the stakeholders and finally to build up the report. So the step-by-step process has to be instituted, okay, consciously laid out, consciously monitored, consciously part of the plan. Yeah, so that's important because it is also about getting a good data and ensuring the quality. So it is one organizational project, yeah, where everyone need to be involved. Okay, I think it's not just sustainability department that need to be involved. It has to be um, all that need to be involved to get a very good information and to craft a well and clear report. Yeah, well crafted and clear report. So that's really very important. Okay, next slide. Uh, ensure accuracy. Ensure your data is robust, accurate, verifiable, complete, consistent, and comparable, and ensure timeliness. It's very important to ensure timeliness because the moment your integrated report is being issued, yeah, so if you incorporate your sustainability statement, so it has to come together. And otherwise, even if you have a separate report, readers would expect that they are published together. So as far as I think CIMB is concerned, in 2024, when they publish the IR, everything comes together. Yeah, the full set, the IR, the financial statements, the supplemental data booklet, all came out together. Okay. And then next, your data management practice has to be robust. You have to map your data source, define clear roles and responsibility, use technology as much as possible, and do put out budget for the technology to be adopted. Establish internal control. I've also shared with you COSO internal control on sustainability report, but we don't have time to go through, but I've shared with you. That also is a good, very good material for you to embed in your, to share with the students as well. And do maintain the audit trail. Okay. And next, with regards to the information technology, there are, locally uh, developed technology by like LCOS, Carbon Management Simplified. This is locally developed. And there's international, technology or solution like Workiva, much being used by audit firms as well. So Workiva has been globally known. There's two examples. I think more can be found on MIA website on their list of sustainability related technology. Okay, so but information technology, if you have it, that I would say that this would be very useful and that can minimize a lot of nightmare and error in data collection. Okay, and especially if it comes with a reporting template and where it fits into the report template, that will be very useful. Okay, so next, so when you want to submit, say for audit and or submission to the regulator, next, it's also good that you have alignment with other frameworks that you use together. So if you prepare ISB compliant, but you also refer to GRI or SASB, that is good to have that alignment of data and information so that you comply properly with ISSB. Yeah. Next, finalizing it, gather all your necessary data, verification, and bring your internal audit to also help with the verifications that the data is consistent, and then getting the approval with the senior management, the board, yeah, getting external assurance and internal assurance, and to finally have it is properly uh, designed and crafted. Yeah, normally the design also plays a role on how the message is communicated. Okay. So final slide, the conclusion. Data collection is really very important. Okay, and robust data helps in terms of decision making and in terms of communicating with internal and external stakeholders. Okay. And when we have to comply with frameworks, so understanding the frameworks is very important. Understanding how a few frameworks work together with the standards also very important, and mapping it. Okay. That needs to be identified and done. And then if you have challenges, is I think get help, and also sharing session with other practitioners or preparers would also be very helpful. Okay. And then find the best technology to assist in reporting. And of course, technology is really useful, and you need to set up budget for that. And finally, obtaining assurance, whether it's internal or external assurance. And Bursa Malaysia requires, say, internal, and as time goes by, you need to be able to be assured externally as well. Yeah, because assurance ensures the credibility, enhanced credibility and trust in the report. Okay, let's look at our final slide. Any questions or answers or any discussion? Feel free to ask your one final question before we call it a day. Okay, I can see Azlin already saying thank you. Welcome, Azlin. Do you have any questions, Dr. Azlin? Okay, no questions. Well, I suppose you all been, it has been a strenuous morning. This is indeed technical. But I hope the session one session and session two both will give you a starter of of handling or sharing or communicating how important is sustainability matters and sustainability agenda uh, in our career moving forward, or in our life moving forward, wherever we are doing. But I would say that sustainability is really an important topic that everyone need to understand. But of course, if your students are moving into various roles in the future, such as analyst or accountant, then they need to go further in terms of the technical understanding of this topic, and all the uh, specific areas within environment, social, and governance, and how it's impacting the strategy, the risks, and opportunities of the company, the business, and even the public sector or any organizations. So if you ask me, I think this is really um, a big thing that we need to understand, that now moving forward, when we talk about how do we live in the near future or the longer term, we really need to understand the impact of sustainability that includes environmental, social, and governance. Okay. On that point, I wish you all the best in bringing this information and the knowledge to your students, to your stakeholders, and let us all uh, bring prosperity to our to the world, to the global community and to the world. With that, thank you very much, and assalamualaikum, and please apologize for my shortcomings and also the technical hiccups. I hand it over to Ayumi. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nurmazilah, for your insightful and engaging presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to an end for Teaching for Impact, MIE Sustainability, Train the Trainers 2025 Series 2. Before we conclude, we kindly remind all participants to complete the evaluation form. You may click the link provided in the chat box or simply scan the QR code displayed on the screen. On behalf of MIA, thank you once again for joining us today. We truly appreciate your time, participation, and continued support. We hope today's session has inspired new ideas and approaches as you continue making an impact through your teaching. Let's continue to grow and learn together as we work towards a more sustainable future. Wishing you all the very best, and we look forward to see you at our future events. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you everyone.